Two people in Britain both say they own a home. One owns the building and the land beneath it. The other paid hundreds of thousands of pounds for a countdown, for a landlord, for ground rent, for service charges, and for a clock that loses value every year. 5 million properties sit on this side of the line, and what UK developers rarely explain before you sign is just how little of that home actually belongs to you. Freehold and leasehold form the backbone of property law in England and Wales, yet their meanings are often hidden behind legal jargon until contracts are signed. Freehold is simple. You own the land and the building outright. No superior landlord, no countdown clock. You're responsible for repairs and decisions, from fixing the roof to building an extension, within planning rules. The land and bricks are yours, and there is no annual ground rent or permission needed, unless you are on a managed estate where estate charges might apply. But fundamentally, freehold means permanent control. Leasehold is a different story. Here you purchase the right to occupy a property for a set period, commonly 99, 125, 250, or even 999 years. The land and building remain with the freeholder. Your contract, the lease, spells out what you can do, what you must pay, and when your time runs out. When the lease ends, the property returns to the freeholder, no matter how much you paid. It is a ticking clock, and as the years slip away, so does your stake. Roughly 5 million homes in England and Wales are leasehold, about 1 in 5 properties. Lease length matters. A 999-year lease feels endless, but 99 or 125 years is standard, especially in new flats. Once a lease drops below 80 years, extending it can become expensive, partly because of a legal concept called marriage value. This can add tens of thousands to the cost, and short leases often scare off mortgage lenders, trapping owners. Leaseholders pay ground rent, an annual fee with no link to services or maintenance. On top of that are service charges for insurance, cleaning, and repairs, often set by the freeholder or their agent. Permission fees can apply for alterations, or even keeping a pet, reinforcing that ultimate control lies elsewhere. Freehold means ownership. Leasehold is a contract with a countdown, ongoing costs, and restrictions. The difference shapes who truly owns a home, who controls its future, and how much of an investment can vanish as the years pass. For millions, the reality of leasehold only becomes clear when the clock is already ticking. Leasehold isn't a rare quirk of city living. It is a system that touches nearly 5 million homes across England and Wales, according to figures from the House of Commons Library. That is about 1 in 5 properties, flats and houses alike, woven through cities, suburbs, and even rural developments. In some urban areas, leasehold dominates entire neighbourhoods, shaping the experience of home ownership for millions. For many, the reality of leasehold only becomes clear when the bills start to arrive, revealing a web of obligations that can catch even seasoned buyers off guard. The origins of leasehold trace back to the Victorian era, when Britain's cities swelled with new residents and the skyline filled with rows of terraced houses and the first apartment blocks. Developers faced a practical challenge: how to manage shared roofs, staircases, and, as technology advanced, lifts and central heating, when dozens or hundreds of people lived under one roof. The answer was split ownership. Landlords granted long leases, 99 years, sometimes 125 years, or even 999 years, allowing buyers to occupy a flat while the land and structure remained with the freeholder. This arrangement made sense. Someone needed to be responsible for the roof, the drains, the outside walls. Leasehold pooled costs, organised repairs, and kept the building running as a single entity, avoiding endless disputes over who should pay for a leaking roof or a broken lift. By the early 20th century, leasehold had become the standard for flats and maisonettes. Each flat's owner held a lease, while a single freeholder or management company collected ground rent and service charges to cover communal expenses. The system was built for shared living, not for profit. Over time, though, leasehold expanded beyond flats into new build houses, often with little justification beyond creating extra income streams for developers and investors. The original logic of shared responsibility faded as leasehold was applied to houses with no communal areas, and charges became less transparent. Today, leasehold is a central part of the UK housing market, shaping what people pay, what they can change, and even whether they can sell. A system invented to solve real problems in communal living now leaves many homeowners with risks and few rewards. Ground rent sits at the heart of the leasehold money drain. It sounds harmless, an annual payment, often a few £100s, for the right to occupy your own home. But this charge is not for services or maintenance. It is a fee paid to the freeholder, simply because they own the land beneath your feet. In some modern leases, ground rent starts small but doubles every 10 or 15 years. That means £250 can jump to £500, then £1,000, and keep climbing, even though nothing new is provided in return. The Competition and Markets Authority has forced developers and investors to scrap these doubling clauses in thousands of cases. Yet for many, the damage is already done. One leaseholder in Cheshire opened her mail to find her ground rent demand had ballooned, turning her flat into a financial trap she could not sell or remortgage. Service charges are another recurring shock. These are supposed to cover communal costs, cleaning, insurance, repairs, but the bills often arrive with little warning and less explanation. In 2023, a block of flats in London received a service charge demand for £12,300 per household, all for emergency roof repairs. The tribunal later ruled much of that sum was unjustified, but only after months of stress and legal wrangling. National research shows that nearly 1 in 5 leaseholders has faced a service charge jump of more than 50% in a single year. Some owners have been hit with bills of £8,000 or more just to meet new fire safety rules, with no option to challenge the cost except through lengthy tribunal battles. Then come the permission fees. Want to change your kitchen, swap the carpets, or even keep a pet? Each request can trigger a demand for £250, £500, or sometimes more, just for the freeholder's consent. These are not rare exceptions, they are built into standard leases. The Competition and Markets Authority has called out these practices, but until the law changes, the fees keep coming. For many leaseholders, the bills arrive with no warning and no real way out. The money does not just leak away, it pours. The 80-year mark is the tipping point in leasehold law. Once a lease drops below this threshold, extending it triggers marriage value, a calculation that hands half the property's value increase to the freeholder. For leaseholders, this can mean tens of thousands in extra charges, a penalty for missing the deadline. The only way to avoid it is to act before the clock runs out. Developers and investors have long understood how to profit from this system. Companies' house data shows ground rent yields of 6 to 8%, making freeholds a lucrative asset. Specialist buyers routinely pay £30,000 to £50,000 for a single house's freehold, and up to £200,000 for a block of flats, purely for the right to collect ground rent and fees. Leasehold houses became a national scandal as families discovered they needed permission and payment for basic changes, while developers quietly sold freeholds to investment funds. After years of campaigning, Parliament responded. The Leasehold and Freehold Reform Act 2024 scrapped the 2-year ownership rule, letting leaseholders extend leases at any time. From the 31st of January 2025, new extensions must last at least 990 years, ending the cycle of short terms. April 2025 brings right to manage reforms, making it easier for leaseholders to take control of their buildings, even if up to half is commercial space. Service charge changes follow in October 2025, yet the most sweeping reforms remain in draft. The Commonhold and Leasehold Reform Bill, due January 2026, would cap ground rent at £250, ban new leasehold houses, and make Commonhold the default for new flats. But until these measures become law, the old system grinds on and the countdown continues. 5 million homes still sit on ticking leases, while new reforms promise change but leave loopholes. Today, the system remains stacked in favour of those who wrote the rules. Until ownership means true control and not a contract that counts down, the fight is far from over. Let me know your view below.